Kia ora tata.
Todd McClay.
Speaker, thank you. I want to commend the last speaker in this debate for being reasonable, grounded and coming here to offer something to the House we have only seen from this side of the House so far. There was no rhetoric, there was no screaming and yelling, there was no pontificating for members of the public. Mr Flavel is a member who takes this issue seriously and represents his constituency in this extremely well. You see, the issue, Mr Speaker, is about the mixed ownership model and what's right and fair. It's about keeping debt levels down, getting back to surplus in a reasonable time, the government's books, being careful about spending government funds and the money we're entrusted by the taxpayer, focusing on growth and investment in New Zealand, boosting productivity, investing in the New Zealand economy. All things that members of the opposition hate hearing from this side of the House. But, Mr Speaker, when I'm out and about the country and in my electorate, those are things that New Zealanders are focused on and are important to them. Now, in this, Mr Speaker, we have made an announcement. The government and the Prime Minister has been extremely clear. The government's position on water rights has been consistent all the way through. In common law, nobody owns water. Actually, Mr Speaker, I go on to say in common law, nobody owns the wind and nobody owns the sunshine either. But in as far as this debate is concerned, nobody in New Zealand owns water. Now, I accept there will be many groups, including iwi, who have interests in water, and these are currently being addressed and have been addressed through a number of processes, including through the treaty settlement process. And our preferred model is developing control and management of water rights, reflecting the relevant interests that iwi have. Now, Mr Speaker, I want to be clear on this. This isn't an issue between the government versus Maori, or Maori versus the government, or Maori versus Maori. This is an issue that is important for New Zealand and has been going on for some time. I want to recognise that in Maoridom there are a number of views and voices on this issue, and it's important, as the last speaker said, that these are considered and given time. When we were in the committee and we dealt with this legislation, two wharetoa came before us, and they did raise issues, as previous speakers from the Labour Party have said, around their concern over water. But subsequently they wrote to the committee before we adopted the legislation and sent it back to this House to say that there had been a process underway with government, that they were happy with that process, they were committed to continuing with that, and they believed it would offer them the redress that they sought. Mr Speaker, for the record, this government has an outstanding position when it comes to settling previous grievances under the treaty. And in fact, the Minister, Mr Finlayson, has put a great amount of effort into this. It has been achieved issue by issue, iwi by iwi, and settlement by settlement. And this is very much an approach that has been underway for some time when it comes to water, and an approach that will continue when it comes to settlements around water, iwi by iwi, not ownership, but around interests. And I want to, Mr Speaker, ask members of the House to cast their minds back a year or two ago to my electorate, and on the edge of the electorate of the hard-working MP for Taupo, Louise Upston, Mr Flavel, and the Wairaki electorate, where we came together with a wide, diverse range of people throughout New Zealand, from local iwi, and a settlement was made, was signed an agreement with the Crown over the Waikato River, and as many would say, the mighty Waikato River. Well, this is the largest river in New Zealand, and from the edge of Lake Taupo, flowing down at least to Hamilton, issues around that river have been settled. And there is agreement between local iwi and the Crown over management of this and of the way forward. It wasn't about ownership, Mr Speaker, it was about the way forward. And I just wanted to say that very much in our approach to this as a government, it has been about embarking on an important process with Maori to recognise some of their claims. Now, we've implemented the Fresh Start for Freshwater program, established the Land and Water Forum, a collection of over 60 parties, including iwi, to work through this process. So, Mr Speaker, we have a record of recognising grievances, looking where different groups in society have a claim, where they have an interest, and finding the very best way forward to deal with this on a group-by-group, iwi-by-iwi basis, and that's very much what we have said that we will continue to do through this process. The final point I want to ask what the Labour Party's position is on the Maori Council claims. What did they really do to support them? Now, we have Mr Shearer on record saying he supports the Prime Minister's position all of a sudden. He said nobody owns water. But what we did hear, finally in conclusion, Mr Speaker, is Mr Finlayson said that there was a settlement with iwi over Taniwha Springs. Taniwha Springs settlement over water, something the opposition is saying is impossible. Well, we know Mr Shearer believes in that settlement. We heard on TV last night he believes in Taniwha, so he believes in the settlement of Taniwha Springs, but the government is being responsible. We're taking the issues into account, and we will continue on this process for the good of New Zealanders. Mr Speaker, thank you.
Honourable David Parker.